Hello artists! Let's make a watercolor mountain sunset landscape. I'm starting out by folding my thick white paper in half, and I'm creasing it with my nail so that I can easily tear it in half and end up with a half sheet of paper. I'm using my thicker white paper. I don't want to use thin white paper because it won't hold up with the water we're going to be using on it. The materials you will need to get out for this are your paper, a paper towel, your watercolor paint set, and a half full container of water with cold water in it, and your paintbrushes. I'm putting white paper under the lid of my palette so I can see clearly the colors I'm mixing. I'm dipping my paper towel in my water, and I am getting my whole paper damp because I'm going to be doing wet on wet watercolor. I want the colors to flow. So I know if I get the paper wet first, that will be easier. I'm using my fingers and dipping them in my water, and I'm dripping water into every color to reconstitute the colors so that they are wet and they will flow. If the paints are dry, you cannot paint with them. I'm starting off by loading up my brush with some red paint, and I'm just going to make some red streaks across the sky. And I'm going to follow up with some yellow. And I'm just making streaks across wherever I want to put them so that it looks like a sunset. Keep on adding colors that you remember from a beautiful sunset that you've seen. Think about the memories that you have stored in your mind and use those memories as inspiration when you are choosing your colors. Now I'm going in with some purple, which I am watering down because I don't want it to get too dark. Now, if I notice that my paper starts to crumb, that means the paper is starting to disintegrate and it's going to tear. So if you do see crumbs, move over to a different place. You can come back and do another layer of paint once the paper has dried. I'm adding this beautiful bright blue in streaks across my sky. You can add whatever colors you want. You can use the same colors I'm using, or you can use completely different colors. It's your artwork and you get to choose. I am going to add some dramatic darks. I'm streaking them in. Don't be afraid. Grab some colors that inspire you and paint. I have made a watercolor wash. I've used dark purple and dark blue and a lot of water to make it light. So even though I'm using dark colors, there's so much water that it's going to look light. And I created a line that looks like mountains in the distance. And then I'm going in with some water and blending it so that it is the darkest at the top of the line, and then it gets gently lighter. So in order to lighten watercolor, you just add water so that you see more of the white paper coming through. What I'm doing now is painting the next mountain. So this is just a little bit darker, and I'm creating a different interesting line across the paper. I am again adding some water so that it lightens up. So I have a dark edge on the top, and then it gradually lightens because of the water. I've chosen to go back in with some darker color and darken it up. You can choose to do that too if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and create a wash, a light blue wash, all the way to the bottom edge of my paper now. And I don't really like the way everything's blending together. So I'm going to let my painting dry. I'm going to put it aside, let it dry, and then come back to it to add more detail once the paper's completely dry. Now that my paper is completely dry, I am going to go back in and add some more layers. You're going to need to be really patient and wait until your paper is dry if you do not want the colors to blend together. I encourage you to be patient. It is a good virtue to develop in yourself, and it's something you need as an artist. So here I'm cleaning up the top edge, and then I'm going to add some water and create a wash so that it blends gradually down. I've speeded up the video here so it looks like a time lapse. You can pause the video, take your time, don't rush your painting process. Next, I'm going to go in with my next layer of mountains. So when you're looking out at the mountains, it looks like there's layers, and way in the distance they're lighter because of atmospheric perspective, and as they get closer to you, the colors get darker and more vibrant. I'm actually going to mix a little bit of the darker green into my bluish purple for my final layer of mountains. So I have a little bit of variety of color in my painting. I am again using water to create a wash and to make the value go from dark at the top of the mountain to light. I've decided to add some more darks into my sky. Sometimes you might find that when paint dries, it gets lighter, and you might want to go back in with another layer to darken it and make it more vibrant. So that is what I am doing here. At this point, I've been working on my painting for a while. It's getting pretty wet and it's getting soggy, so I'm going to be patient and put it aside. Okay, now I'm back. It's about an hour or so later. My painting is dry, and I'm mixing up some colors to create a tree line on some of my mountains. When you're painting your tree line, just imagine what the trees would look like. You can also paint houses or whatever you want, castles, dragons, anything that you can imagine, you can paint. Remember that this is far off in the distance, so you're not going to see it clearly. The eye would blur what's on these mountains, so you don't need to paint it very clearly. You can paint suggestions of trees and houses. So I'm painting little lines and shapes to represent trees and houses, buildings, and other things on the mountainside. I decided to go back in and darken up some of my areas. And then whenever you're done, remember to clean up. So keep your watercolor paints opened until they're completely dry, but put them somewhere where they're not going to get knocked or a cat isn't going to walk across them. And then when you are done, make sure you put everything away and clean up after yourself. Have fun and enjoy painting this wonderful project. Please photograph your work and share it with us when you're done. Enjoy your painting process.